So Jason Prince at Structura. We initially had the intention of doing this at the gym, so we're going to still give the shout out to Latrano CrossFit. But because of the weather, we weren't able to get there to do the filming. So we still wanted to do that plug for them. Thank you guys for letting us be able to do that. So we're going to look at two things here. We're going to look at the importance of hip and foot position, hip mobility, and then second, shoulder position and mobility. So the first thing that we're going to do is, here's a little test for you, and to kind of show you that when we're out of position, then that does not enable for the muscle system and the nervous system to function properly. So as we look, our client here is standing very wide. Will you go to a little more of your normal stance for me? Right there, okay. He's toed out, and so we want more of a straightforward position. It's kind of like with a car. If we have any kind of a angle, it's going to wear on the tires. Luckily, our bodies are a little more dynamic, but they still will break down. So go ahead and go back to your slightly toed out position, and then go ahead and do just a medium squat. And we can see that his knees are going and following out with his feet. Okay, go ahead and come back up. So what I'm going to do is grab the knees, and we're going to show you that with his position, because he's not in the correct position, that he's going to end up being weak. And this is a common fault when someone is doing a squat. Their knees will collapse in, and then you're prone to injury. So go ahead and go to that mid squat, right? Yeah, about right there. I'm going to pull in, try and resist me, right? So that's difficult for him to resist. Okay, now go ahead and put your feet straight forward. And then now you can engage glutes better and hold that position. So go ahead and come down. Right? Much, much stronger. So his natural position is slightly toed out. So we need to fix that. So we'll talk about how to do that here in just a second. The next thing is that when we're working with the shoulder girdle, position makes a big difference as well. So here's another simple test so that you can be able to see that. So he's going to put his arm here. He's going to lock out his elbow, thumb up, lock out that elbow. Okay? Nice and solid there. Now, if you tip your head back, and then we do the same thing, he's weak. And then as he looks straight forward, keeping the spine straight, nice and solid. So if we were to do a deadlift and we break the neck like he just did, now we're going to lose that weakness. Or if we're going to pick up a laundry basket, we want to maintain a good neutral spine as we go down. So with the shoulder, we want to make sure that we're in a good position. So Nate, go ahead and bring your arms out straight. We should be able to keep the shoulder blades touching and bring the hands together in the front. So go ahead and bring your hands together. You can see how they're falling apart. That does not hold the arms in the correct position. So you switch me and act like you're the therapist. So as we go here, as we open, we need to be able to stay and touch and still have them holding in together. So if they're not being held, your muscles aren't holding them in the right position, again, we're going to lose that weakness and the efficiency. So we're going to go through some things that you can do to help get those shoulders back into position. And we're going to do that through two things. One, we're going to do a repatterning exercise, and then also a mobility technique. And then we're going to do a technique to be able to help the low back. If the hip and the shoulder don't have the mobility that they need, that's going to really compromise the low back, and that's how we'll finish that off. So hip repatterning first. So we want to be hips, knees at 90-90. So scoot in. Good. And then what we're going to do is cross this ankle over so that we're getting a little bit of a rotation here. And then when we're stretching, if we can contract the muscle, that sends a signal to the other muscle to relax. So what we're going to have the client do here is press their knee toward the wall with your muscles in your leg. Okay? So press toward the wall. So we're going to get the contraction that's going to send the signal to the hip to stay open, and we're going to hold this contraction for 2 to 3 minutes. And then you'll switch feet and go to the other side. So what that will do was release the muscles in the hip to allow those feet to naturally come to more of a straightforward position. And that alignment, as we know, will help you to be stronger. We've got a Rogue Monster Band here. Typically at the gym we'd tie it to the rig, but we're going to just use the door frame here for this one. So what you want is to be able to get that into the hip here, and then you're going to come forward, and that's pulling and opening the hip. And from here, we can just lean back and allow that to drag and pull. And then we can do a couple of different things. So I can bring my leg forward and lock that in, and then sit back into that. So similar to like what we were doing on the wall. And we also want to be able to get to internal rotation. So hook the foot out and then sit back into that and open the hip in the second direction. So we've got a great repatterning technique against the wall, and then a great mobility technique here to increase the range of motion of the hip so that we can get our feet into a proper position to be able to have a good, strong squat. Okay, for the shoulder, so go ahead and stand. What we want, go ahead and do this golfer's grip here. Go ahead and go straight out to your side. So with this exercise, we want the shoulder blades to squeeze together, and most of the time, that's a little difficult to hold in that position. So if you need to bring your arms down to the side a little bit, you can. They need to stay touching through the whole exercise. And then the client, they're going to roll their hands up and over mine. So about a 6-inch circle, keeping the shoulder blades together, rotating forward. And I would start with 10 repetitions forward and then flip the thumbs back over. And then you're going to go backward, again, about a 6-inch circle, which is around my hand, rotating backward up 10 times. Go ahead and relax there. So we've got 10 forward, 10 back. I would stick with those for about a week every day, 10 forward, 10 back. And then over the next 3 weeks, you want to increase to where you're able to get to 2 sets of 40. So 40 forward, 40 back. That's one set. 40 forward, 40 back. That's the second set. So that is going to repattern, help rotator cuff, make sure that you're being in a good position as you're working out and lifting. So another thing to help open up your shoulder from a mobility perspective here is tuck the hand so it's your back pocket, step forward into that, and then you can use a second band, a towel, anything that way, and pull that elbow forward. So the green band is going to be pulling my shoulder back, and then with the red band I'm going to be rotating that forward. So what that's going to do is help get the humerus back in the shoulder socket, and then get a nice deep stretch of that rotator cuff muscle, the infraspinatus. You want to hold that again for about 2 minutes. So then you're going to get a good release. Shoulder's going to feel good. You're going to be able to hold that into a good position. So we've looked at a repatterning and a mobility technique for both the hip and the shoulder. And then the next thing that often happens is that, Nate, come stand. As he puts his arms overhead and then tries to do a squat where the shoulder and the hip rotation, the hip position are not where we want, go ahead and go do a squat. What will happen is the body falls forward. Okay, go ahead and come back out of that. And so that's telling us the hip flexor is really, really tight. So a nice little repatterning technique. Find a block at the gym. Typically you want it 18, 20 inches high. and then just lay in what we call static back position. Arms, palms up, just nice and relaxed. You don't want them up above your head, and you don't want them down to your side because you want the shoulders to be open. So gravity will be pulling and dropping that low back to relax. If you ever have a back spasm or anything like that, this is a great position. Lay here till it stops hurting to get that release. So the other thing is as you lay here, we recommend 5 minutes at least. You can go up to 10. You'll be able to start to feel differences between the sides and the hips where one side will feel more pressure than the other. And the longer that you lay here, the more even it will feel and the more of your back that you'll feel that's touching. So if you want a good mobility technique to help to get into the hip flexor, one of my favorites is a lacrosse ball and then with a kettlebell. So start with a little lighter weight at first, but what you want is find the hip bone and the belly button, and then hold the ball, client, right between the hip and the belly button. And then what you're going to do is, with the other hand, just let that settle right in on that ball. So you can do this with the legs up, or we're going to take them out for a second. Let your legs back down, zero position, good. So here, then you also want to make sure that you know where the hip flexor is. So as you just give a slight lift of the foot, good, you're going to feel, back down, you're going to feel that muscle contract and push up into that ball. Then you know you're in the right spot. And you can let lighter grip on the kettlebell, or you could even help push it down in to get that release. Again, 2 to 3 minutes on each side. So, some fantastic mobility techniques and repatterning for the shoulder, the hip, and low back. See you guys next time.